Hi, I'm Kelli.
And I'm Danni.
Welcome back to the ProCreatives Podcast for moms who make things.
A podcast for moms and future moms who are navigating their creative careers as they raise their little inspirations.
Check out this bonus episode of the podcast on maternal health and medical care through our personal experiences. We won't be sharing medical advice, so please contact your healthcare provider and do your own research. Find out what works best for you and for your body.
Yes, we're both moms with two different childbirth experiences, and we're just going to talk about it. So let's get into it.
So clearly, I have 4 kids. You have 2, but I know, like you said, we had 2 totally different experiences in terms of the maternal care and ultimately childbirth. So this conversation is really weighty, but we're going to make it, we are who we are. So, it's not going to be as weighty, but just prepare yourself emotionally that there might be some, things that are triggering if you have had any of these experiences before. So I know you've been doing some reflection lately.
Yes, been having some thoughts about, so I've been pregnant 4 times. I have 2 children. But so my first pregnancy I had a loss at 8 weeks, and the second one that I had a loss at, that was much later. I believe it was 14 weeks. It was longer. But I was thinking about that particular experience, and I was just sharing with Kelli about if I wish I knew then what I knew now. Concerning like just knowing my body and how to advocate for myself, and the research I wish I would have done. But then on the back end, I'm like, why I gotta do y'all's job? If you a whole doctor out here, why do I have to check your homework? Why? Right. So on one hand, I definitely advocate for people doing research and knowing things and knowing about your body before getting pregnant. But also, there's a level of trust we put in professionals to basically do their basic bare minimum job and to not make mistakes that cause losses. So for that particular loss, it was poor prenatal care. There was an incident, something happened, and it was the direct result of what the doctor recommended. And it was very unfortunate, and it sucked. It sucked on all the reasons. And the mere fact that this was like 6 years ago, and I was thinking about it this week, I was like, it just had me thinking of all the things, how I could have advocated for myself. And then even because I didn't know any better, I was like, okay, what can I do now? Because I don't never like to live in the idea of, or in a space of regret. I like to believe that things happen for a reason, as sucky and horrible, but I also believe that they can be transformed, or like they can evolve into something beautiful. So my hope is to, share my story and hopefully encourage people to speak out, when they're seeing their doctors and when things don't feel right, if they have a gut feeling. And also, do research. If you have a doctor that does not want you asking questions, run.
Yeah. I think so. I know people who definitely have had that experience. I think some of it is pride on the doctor's part.
I don't care.
I know,
in the bag.
Right, exactly.
It's my life. I'm proud about my life. How about that? And my baby.
No, exactly. And to your point, it's like you're here to do a service, and so pride cannot be a part of that package. Of doing the job that you studied to go to. I know you were talking about Elaine Welteroth and her experiences. Now, if you are not familiar with Elaine, she was a co-host on The Talk. She was one of the youngest editor-in-chief, I believe, of Teen Vogue. She's really just a great writer. She's also is a mom of 1, and she talked about her initial experience with, having a baby.
With poor prenatal health. Like so you know what I liked about her conversation? She kept talking about, and I love that she acknowledged that she definitely well known, right? She has money. She has connections. She mentioned that connections, and she's very well connected, but yet still she couldn't find anyone in LA And she said she went through 3 different doctors and eventually settled on a doula because they were not meeting her needs. And it wasn't one of those things where, she had preconceived notions, right? It was just, they were falling short of like basic care.
Mm.
And she was saying that, she expected to have a child in a hospital just like her mom and her grandmother. She she was not planning to have a home birth, but those events, seeing how the experiences that with 3, I can't even imagine going through 3 different doctors. 3 is just a little bit much, especially while pregnant, because you know how they put you through all these ringers and then you have to transfer paperwork, like it's a whole thing, right? And also is that feeling of that trust, right? You're building a relationship because ultimately they're going to be with you throughout this whole, experience. But anyway, she finally settled on doulas and they made a world of a difference. Like she is singing their praises. She even mentioned their name. She was actually on, what's that show with Charlemagne? I'm Breakfast Club, The Breakfast Club.
Mm-hmm.
And she was sharing with them that, and she was saying that right now she's advocating for that because so many women are dying because of this. They're dying or their children are dying because of this poor prenatal care. And I was just like, it has to stop. It's too much.
Yeah. No,
It's too much.
it's really a lot. And I think, I mean, obviously she has a lot more privilege because of finances, and connections and all of that. But the fact that even someone in that someone who's in that
Yeah.
space has also the same challenges is really something that's telling. And I
Yeah.
think for me, the question becomes, because I do know people who have used doulas in childbirth. I mean, I delivered all my kids in the hospital. Um, it's such a multifaceted thing, but I think ultimately, in my opinion,
Yeah.
what I see it boiling down to is, what are y'all learning in medical school?
Facts on facts on facts. What, like
realistically, not just when you're navigating like one of those dummy models, not even when you're going through what is that? There's a part of the process where they're the residency
residency.
program,
Right.
because to me, it's everybody's different. I can think on one
Yes.
hand of 5 women that I know who
Right.
experience even their menstrual cycle
Yes.
in different ways. This one has
Yes.
lower back pain. This one is
Yes.
just easy peasy on their period. This one's period
Yes.
lasts 5 days. This one's
Mhm.
period lasts 7,
Okay. One
And
day. I'm kidding.
okay,
I'm kidding.
not one day, but this one has more heavy days than light days. This one has more light
Right.
days than it. And so it's like, if all of these different variations are happening with all of these different women,
Yeah.
and we're not even talking about the race factor, right? We're just talking
Right.
about the body in general.
Yeah.
Maternal care cannot be a one size fits all type of experience,
No.
because we are just too different as humans. Now I get it. There has to be some basics, some parameters, some foundational things. But I think the issue is in the approach that, if your body's doing that, there must be something, not even that there must be something wrong, because I don't think the question becomes there must be something wrong. I think it's
Right.
usually just dismissed, right? Like that's
Right.
not really happening, as
Well,
opposed
exactly.
to
So exactly when we were talking before, I explained to you, like I remember telling them I carry low, right? And I remember my aunt using the term about my womb is low, right? And it's just casual, Trinidadian, and I was like, okay, sure. And going to the doctor and kind of trying to explain to them that is what, like, I carry my children low. And they're like, nah, that's not you. I'm supposed to hear the heartbeat up here. Like, I'm like, give me the thing. I promise you. I was like, give it to me. Let me show you where it is. And then they were like, oh, you were right. Yeah, I know I'm right. I'm telling you what I'm feeling. And why aren't you listening to me? Like, my body that's how I'm shaped. Now, is that a problem? And then I was like, okay, is that a problem? Is that like, no, you're fine. You're healthy. Okay, if that's the case, then why you ain't listening? Why are you not acknowledging the fact that I told you that I'm carrying low, and I can tell you right now, this is what, and I'm so grateful for my lab, the doctor that delivered. Well, he actually didn't deliver her, but he was my doctor during the time. He was great. He was very understanding. He listened. He's an older guy, and he was just like, when I just brought my concerns to him, and even though I was so anxious, he was just like very calm, and he was like, okay, that's where it is. And he listened, and he went ahead and he listened. He went low, like I told him. And he was like, oh, there she is. She's fine. She's doing great. I was like, yeah, I know. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. You can hear me. I didn't know my voice could be heard. And he made the world of a difference. Even though he didn't live close to me, he was actually about 40 minutes away. Right. And, typically when you're going through your, pregnancy, you want a doctor close. Listen, the hospital was about 45 minutes away. And I said, no, that's where he is. I'm going to go there. And we just going to have to be contracted in his car all the way to where he at, because he heard me and he understood. I believe he understood that everybody's different, and he treated me with that respect, and he heard me. So y'all, listen, we're not here to bash doctors and say all of them are horrible, because he was excellent.
Yes. And on the flip side, and it's, we're both sharing our honest experiences, and of course we're friends. So we've seen each other on these journeys.
Yes.
But my experience was the complete opposite of that. And I think that there has to be, just like there's not a cookie cutter childbirth experience. Like, we have to understand and have compassion, empathy, and understanding on both sides. Right. Yeah. Because there's always going to be someone who's just like, I'm delivering in the hospital. Like, I don't care. And other people who are like, let me squeeze out my baby at home with a doula and all of that. And so we have to leave room for both experiences. But I think at the heart of it, no matter the care that you receive, you want to know that you're listened to, that you're respected, and that you're going to receive quality care. And I think
that was it. Yeah.
Whether it's a doula or whether it's a doctor in a hospital, you want to know that you can trust that person, that they're not prideful, that they're not just like, well, I've been doing this, I've been doing this for 30 years. I pushed out babies, black, white,
and I pushed out babies older than you.
You know what I mean? I done pushed out babies older than you and your grandma. And it's like, okay, well, thank you. Right. But no, to me, it's a red flag. If you're, I don't need, trust me, before I even get to you, I've already looked you up a million times. Okay. I done looked at the reviews. All right. I done got the recommendation, but I think it's like, honestly, for me, it has to be humility first, because I think if you're humble, you can come to the table with an open mind, with a listening ear, and not already coming into this scenario like, I'm knowing all the answers because I've delivered, you
guys can't see, but Kellianne is smoking a fake cigarette, okay? Because doctors of yore used to smoke.
Yeah, let me tell you how to take care of your body. Yeah, you want to make sure your lung health is. And it's like, what?
Yeah. So you want to? No, they'll say you want to puff. That's what they would. You want to puff?
Terrible, but yeah, I think the baseline has to be humility and the empathy, compassion, all those things. And for me personally, I was like, I never wanted a male doctor.
Oh yeah, no.
And then we differ.
That's so funny. Yeah. And I was honestly, and I tried going to female doctors, and I felt, and I don't get it. And I'm so disappointed to even say that, but I felt as though they were out of touch. Like now my OB is a female, and she's wonderful. Like, she was great. Like, I definitely like, okay, found a woman that matches. So I'm not knocking all women, but I gotta tell you,
it's your experiences. It's your experiences, and then they're valid. Like,
honestly, and he was an older doctor as well. Like, he could have easily said to me, "Girl, I know how to find the heartbeat of the baby." Right? Yeah. He could have easily said to me, when I complained about the perinatologist because she was trifling, she was eating while she was doing my exam. Like eating when she was reading the things from the exam, and it was like, oh, and I was like, first of all, I don't know what you're saying because you got food in your mouth, number one. Anyway, but all those things, after I went off, I told her about herself, and he made sure she heard it as well. But he didn't like take it for granted. He was like, okay, yeah. Even though he had worked with that lady before, he took all my concerns and my questions seriously. And I wasn't making it up. I really wasn't out here trying to check
Mhm.
people. God knows. People think I love
Yeah.
to check people. And it's not, no, I know, because I
You
do
have
it
to
well.
stand up for yourself.
Y'all think I enjoy it, but I don't want to do it all the time. Sometimes I just want to pay for the quality and the care and the thing and it get done. I don't want to have to fight to get it. And
Yeah.
that is what's exhausting, is that you have to do all these. I basically had to become a doctor, okay, to honestly to navigate my last pregnancy, because I had to ask all these questions. Now, I'm not saying that I could, help anybody else, but I knew the questions and the things to ask for myself.
Mhm.
And I honestly, I don't think it's the wrong thing, but it was an added pressure that I really didn't want. I feel like it was a burden in a sense, because I'm having to do.
And it's an extra pressure in your mind
Yes.
because ultimately you're doing this for yourself, also for your child. You want to make sure, and so you're already pondering the fact that you've got this child inside of you. You want to make sure that they're safe. And then on top of that, you have the issue of safety. Like I just don't want to, I don't want to lose my life, and I don't want to lose my baby. And I don't want that choice to have to be made. Like,
listen,
you know what I mean? And so we're just to even further clarify, like we're talking about prenatal care. In this particular moment. But of course, the actual labor process. Now, we're saying that prenatal care should not be cookie cutter.
Cannot be.
And
it cannot be.
Yeah, it cannot. Yes, thank you for that.
That we just have to say that.
It cannot be cookie cutter, because everybody's body is different.
Yes.
And then on the other side of it, when we talk about the birthing process.
Oh yeah.
Of course, there are things that happen, right? Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
There are unexpected things that you don't find out. So for me, like I said, I had really good care. And so, which was, I don't even know if I want to go into the fact that we actually had the same doctor.
The first one, we had the same doctor.
The first one, we had the same doctor, and we had two totally different experiences.
That lady, I want to fight. If I see her in the street, I don't care.
Well,
she'll get a piece of my mind. That's all. I'm not violent.
Two different experiences. And so, for me, it is also like, I don't know what we had years difference in between.
It was.
So, but it's the fault is on that doctor. Okay. Yes, I'm not here to do the math on what the issue was. The fault is on their services that were not provided. But I know that for my first child, things were standard procedure, right? Like nausea for the first 3, throwing up for it was pretty on brand. The second one, I was the sickest I had ever been.
That was the one you couldn't smell chicken, right?
I couldn't smell chicken either time, but I couldn't eat. I couldn't eat any.
I remember that. That was hard.
Foods. I was eating oatmeal, crackers I lost weight. One of my friends, one of our guy friends was like, "You sure you having a baby? You look sick." I want to knock him. I wanted to knock him into next year. I don't remember what year it was. I wanted to take him out. And I just gave him a look that was enough. But I had lost weight because I couldn't eat, and at the end of that pregnancy, when we were getting ready to give birth, I had to have an emergency C-section. And that doctor, she actually wasn't supposed to be there that day, but she actually just came by to check on me. Wow. And she ended up having to do the C-section. And I won't forget it, because again, I was like, thank you, God, that she was actually there that day. And she had already prepped me and was saying, I'm not going to be, I'm not scheduled to be there. So you're probably going to have someone else. And I was like, okay, that sucks, but I get it. Yeah. And then she popped up that day. Yeah. And she didn't have a script. She was, I think, actually looking regular. And I was like, okay, well, she's like, well, the heart rate looks a little bit strange. It's not really doing what it's supposed to do. And I'm like, what?
What that mean?
What does that mean? we need to figure out what the problem is, because this is not really.
Yeah.
And she's like, we might have to do an emergency C-section. In my mind, I was like, C-section? I've never researched this. And so I'm going into panic mode. I'm like, I know that has to do with surgery. I'm not prepared for this, because of course my first child was just a regular schmegular, negula,
Yeah.
And, it ended up being an emergency C-section. I had no time to even really think about it. She was like, think about it. And then 2 seconds later, she was like, we have to do this. And I was like, dang. I was like, dang, I was unprepared. I was crying. It was a whole mess. But in those situations, it is right. You're on the fly. And that's why I think the care in the beginning is so important. So that when those moments happen, you have trust in your doctor, right? I trusted her, even though I was nervous, because I was like, I've never been sliced open ever. You know what I'm saying? Surgery.
Right.
No.
I'm scared. That's all it is.
But because that trust was already built, and that's why that prenatal care has to be with someone you trust. So when you get into the emergency situation, you can trust your doctor is not going to kill you. Okay, right?
Listen,
or they're going to make the decisions based on empathy, compassion, humility.
Yeah.
Because patience, even because because you've already, and you can trust them, so you have the comfort of it's going to be okay. And even if it's not, right, because there's great doctors who are literally doing the best they can. They're trying their best. They're working hard. But majority of the situations, it's like, I said I don't feel right.
Yeah.
And they didn't listen to me.
They just didn't listen. And that's, I don't know.
And that's not happening at the end. That's got to be happening all throughout the process.
I want to know if they tell them in their residency, when they ask questions, tell them to shut up. Or if they tell you when the patient has a concern, better, because that's how they act. I love them. I'm just saying.
This is, I mean, yeah. I mean, of course, guys, just be mindful. Right? Like,
these are experiences,
these experiences, and there's a lot of emotions that are attached to it.
Of course.
So, again, just to be clear, we're not here knocking doctors. I know someone who's going through middle school right now, and other people. So it's not about knocking doctors, but it is about how can we bridge this gap? Because there's too many people, too many women. We've been giving birth to children since kingdom was formed. Okay. Time.
Right.
So, and we've grown so much in our knowledge and understanding of the human body. So when there are scenarios that arise and people are saying, hey, I've lived in this body for 30 plus years, for 25 plus years. I think you should take my thoughts into consideration, because I'm the owner of the body, right?
Yeah.
It's not like it's like you're selling somebody a car, and this is not to minimize the human body, the female body, because it's wonderful, but you sell somebody, a car that you had, and you're like, okay, well, just to let you know, just a couple things about the car, right? This is like, in order for, if you want to use a radio, you gotta
put your hand up like this, and then knock this window twice. I'm kidding. I'm just crazy.
So it's like, hey, I've been in this physical body. I'm telling you, something doesn't feel right.
Right.
I was watching something with Jackie O, God rest her soul, but she recently passed away after doing some cosmetic surgery, and apparently she had told the doctor, allegedly, apparently, because I wasn't there. But it's been reported that she told the doctor, hey, I don't feel right. And the doctor just told her to stop taking a particular medicine. And then she continued to decline. And it's like, well, she is expressing to you this, something's not right. And for you to dismiss and not even explore,
right.
We really need to talk about the responsibility that doctors have to really just listen. Like sometimes it's just listen and to understand.
Listen to, because we get that not everybody that goes in may be truthful, right? We know there's people that abuse the system and all these things, and I get that, but there has to be a different way to wean out the truth tellers, and because those people are suffering, right? And I was expressing to Kelli, I said, I I wish there was a way that I didn't have to go through those traumatic experiences. Like,
Yeah.
your mistakes lead to trauma for someone else. Like, and that's you. And yes, you may not see them again every day, or you may never hear from them ever again in your life. But the fact of the matter is that you have impacted somebody's life and really alter their story because of your negligence or just because of your pride. So there
Mm.
has to be a way to bridge the gap. There has to be a way to really to really care. I think that's really what it came down to. Because it can't be like, okay, next patient. Like, even I
Yeah.
always complain as coming from Trinidad, and I'm not trying to say that people might say, oh, but that's a third world country. No, listen, don't y'all better put some respect, okay? We had a family doctor, and my mom had, and what I loved about this family doctor. She specialized in multiple areas. So my mom, that she delivered us, and she was also my pediatrician. Like, so I love that she knew about our family, but she knew my mom in like a complete whole way. Now, like, let's say if my mom had something to, let's say you had to have something with her chest, right? Obviously, she'll send her a specialist or something, maybe it's something that she doesn't have a specialization in. But for the most part, she knew the complete person. There was a relationship there.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore the care was different. Because so now when we're having these people coming to doctor's offices and you just come in and they say, oh, your appointment is at 10:15. You get there 10:15, you're in your waiting room till 10:30. Then when you go in to see the
Girl,
doctor,
10:45. You still sitting out
right?
there.
They give you all of 5 or 10 minutes. They don't really connect with you. And I understand. And I understand that might be like the hustle culture, but I don't think it's okay.
I think, yeah.
At some point we have to say, this is not working. I've had other, like my coworker, he's an older gentleman. He is from Brazil. And he even had the same thing. He said, yeah, my doctor doesn't take the time to talk to me. And then they'll ask you questions of things that's already on your chart. So that tells me you didn't read the chart. You didn't do any prior research to me coming to before you, which also makes me uncomfortable, makes me feel like you're treating me like a number, not a person. And we are people.
Yeah, and I think that's it. And you said a couple things. So one, I do want to say that negligence, right? Like, you're just negligent. You're negligent. Yeah. I know someone whose doctor, they had them as their doctor. They had a terrible experience and then found out that the doctor had a roster of people that negative experiences with. Right. Wow. Now, and she was sent to that person through her insurance. So some of these insurances are they're working with, and you can only go, let's say you have a government subsidized insurance, you can only go specific places, right? And you have no choice. Right. In that situation.
Pick from the lot. Yeah.
Pick from the lot. And so a lot of those places are they are making, we live in a capitalist society. So it really does end up being about the dollar. But there are people, again, we're not talking about every doctor. Okay. I don't want anybody to be like, oh, you guys no. Those doctors know who they are. If they listen to this podcast, they're gonna know.
Gosh, I need to send it to them in an email. Let me stop.
What category they belong in.
Click this link to hear about yourself.
But in all honesty, like, it is, I think, about the dollar. And the best, again, care experiences that I've had are people who ask me questions. Yeah, right? They ask, not just about my baby, like, oh, so how are you? Oh, what are you doing? What do you do for work? And that relational aspect of it, it helps build trust. Because on that day when you're screaming in pain, you want to know that, hey, I got you. You know,
you don't need nothing else to worry about. You don't
exactly.
Listen,
I wouldn't worry about death. Well,
I don't need to be worried about you leaving a glove in me or something crazy. Like, I don't need to worry about anything. Like, nada. I need to do is have this baby. Because first of all, having a child is already, my mom describes it as being at the door. She said the old people say it was being at like in between death and life. Like, listen, she said that when that push, she said when that push that you push, because I never pushed out. I had C-sections both times. But she said that part, you feel like you're in limbo. And she said old people say it, and that's how it field
Yeah.
because it's already, and because things can
It's
happen,
precarious. The whole 9-month
Yeah.
journey is precarious.
Listen,
At any
I don't-
moment.
and we're not trying to, and once again, we're not trying to scare anybody. I know for those who want to have children, there are people out there that are great at what they do, but we also
Yes.
want you to understand that you have to be an advocate for you. You have to be an
Yes.
advocate for you. If you have family or friends who in the medical profession, talk to them, ask the question, ask them what questions you should ask.
Mm.
All those things are definitely beneficial for you. I thank God for my mother-in-law. She had to put a doctor in check quite a few times when she came to visit, because to make sure that they weren't being negligent, this, because as I said, I didn't have, even though I had one doctor throughout my last pregnancy, at the end I went in because it was supposed to be a C-section, but Eva was like, I'm about to come out, I'm coming out through the birth canal. And so the doctor who saw me, who was on call, he was like, okay, we're going to prep you to deliver. And my mother-in-law was like, did you read her chart? She is scheduled to have a C-section because my doctor said, they didn't want any risk, as you guys know, if you don't know, and when you have a C-section one time, they always prefer for you to have a second C-section, just based on, they don't know how you've healed, if the tissue is, will cause any issues with you trying to.
I have a comment on that, but
I know you do. But that's what they said. But believe it or not, after I had the second C-section, they say, oh, fine, you healed fine. But why you couldn't tell that with like a scan or something? Why you couldn't? Because she was in the canal getting ready to come up. But anyway, the doctor on call, he didn't know that I had to have a C-section, and my mother-in-law had to gently remind him, because I was like, he should know because it's in the chart. And she said, you need to be prepping her for a C-section. And he was like, oh, she took his name, and the rest is history. Anyway, go ahead. What do you have to cover?
The margin of error, there's some fields where it's like, okay, if you're a teacher and you accidentally say 1 + 1 = 3, there's the risk is low, right? But if you're in a life management field, and this is just, that's what I'm saying. I'm sure there's another phrase, but you got to be, your margin of error has to be very low.
Minimal, not almost non-existent.
Almost non-existent. And that's a lot of pressure for a human being, but you signed up for that. Okay.
She's so funny. But I feel like, even as you're saying, it's a lot of pressure for a human being. We get that. But we also, that's why we want to talk to, doctors in our upcoming season, because we want to know, we want to ask this question, what are you guys being taught? Because we also want to have, because we're compassionate, we want to be empathetic. We also understand people are people. Yeah. But we want to know if we're right in being upset, our upset anger is justified based on they're just not doing their job, or it's not being taught to them. We just need to know where to put this.
Exactly. Yeah. We need to figure out what category these people belong in, but to the C-section point, and this is something that I think when we also talk about education and informing yourself, my first delivery was vaginal. The middle two were C-sections. One was emergency. The second one was just because my doctor was like, you've already had one. You have to have another. And so here we go. And, she was scheduled. Wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. But she wanted to come out. She wanted to come out.
There you go.
Yes, she's trying to come in right now.
Now she's trying to come in.
Now she's trying to come in. So the podcast recording. But when we found out we were pregnant with our last, I was like, this is gonna be the last time ever. I want to try to do it vaginal. And I went back to my doctor. I was like, what you do? She was like, I don't do that. And I was like, are you sure? She was like, no. Love you, but no. And so I had to search high and low for a doctor who would deliver a vaginal birth after I've had a C-section. And talk about searching high and low. I did. Wow. And then I also had the insurance issue, right? It's like, well, I do it, but I don't take your insurance.
Right.
But, so it's like, okay, well, back to the drawing board. And it's like, it's something that I really wanted. I knew it was possible. I'd researched it. And I found this amazing doctor, and she was like, she went through everything, and actually they did scan me to
I knew it was possible, because I'm like, with all the technology, I was like, y'all should. But I think honestly, they were still trying to blame me for my prior Listen, these people be real. Listen, okay, and it's very much clear because they couldn't find any other reason why I had those losses, and I was like telling them this because of, and then but they don't want to ever badmouth. I remember one doctor looking at when I said this, explain what happened, and just she just shook her head. And she shook her head, but she didn't say anything because I guess she didn't want to badmouth the doctor. But no, in that moment, first of all, I was like, I already know. But that was her basically affirming what I already knew. Mm-hmm. But anyway, going forward, they were like, technically high risk. So that's why they were pushing for that. But yeah, listen.
Yeah. I don't think I did have to go to an additional specialist just to make sure that everything was going to be fine.
Right.
And so, yeah, but again, I was building a relationship with that doctor, and she was just so caring about me as a person, and was so supportive. And she accidentally slipped out that we were having a boy, even though I told her, but because I told her I didn't want to know, but she was so excited.
She's excited.
She was so excited, and we had such a great relationship
that's okay. You happy you knew ahead of time.
She started asking me questions. She didn't say outright, but she was like, well, let's say if you are having a boy,
no, she didn't.
You want them to be circumcised? I was like,
get out of
here. Why did you say that? Okay, so she was already kind of giving me the hint that it was a boy, and but she was excited. She was also like super smile. I was like, lady, you're way too excited.
You can't play poker. You just get us.
But because she had the confidence, we had multiple conversations. She would ask me every time, are you sure this is what you want to do? And I'm like, yes. And she's like, okay, I trust in my skills. Like, I really do believe that you're a good candidate for this. And I think that she kept saying, I think everything is going to be fine. And I was like, you are giving me that assurance that everything is actually going to be fine out of this relationship that we've built.
Yeah.
Your credentials, your reviews, because sister girl checked that too. And just the whole experience. And so, we did it. And she was there the whole way, and she's like, turn me on. And
you knew your body.
And I knew my body. I just knew that.
Oh my gosh. I think that's such a beautiful story. There you go. Clap yourself. Okay. Give yourself an award. Thank you for being you. Okay.
Praise God. Listen, God really came through, because I was also I think this is the other piece too, when we talk about, prenatal care and just the process of pregnancy. I was having nightmares. Right. And I had to keep telling myself, God's going to take care of me. I have good care. Wow. God's going to take care of me. Everything's going to be fine. And that's anxiety as a mom when you're carrying a child. Then when you give birth, there is something about ourselves that just,
we get into protection mode.
The moment we find out.
Yes. We become that's what I call our superpower. There's a hyperextension of everything. You know what I'm saying? You're just kind of hyper vigilant. You're okay, very much, you're very protective. And so even what we call anxiety, the being, I guess, overly thoughtful, and some might think, but that's all a part of us preparing, being, and so yes, sometimes it can go to a little bit, extreme, but that's why you want your doctor to answer those, be patient with you during that time, to ease your fears, not add to it. I'm not saying lie to me. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
But I'm not, definitely, if call a spade, but there's also a way to call a spade, especially if you're doing this, bedside manner, that care, that needs to be they need to teach a class separately about that. Okay. There need to be a class every year in medical school, because
renewal.
It's so, yes, seriously, because it's so important that you learn how to speak to people. Put aside your biases, because every doctor is coming from a different background. My last doctor, he was a Jewish man, an old Jewish man, and I felt most connected to him than all the rest of them. He was the best thing ever. Okay, I wish I could take him and bring him home. Okay, he is amazing. But you're learning you have to be able to connect with all types of people. And me coming all the way from Trinidad, and I'm here in America, and he understanding all those layers of a person, right?
And being willing to understand, right? Not just coming in with the assumptions of, oh, she's a black woman. And
Yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
XYZ,
Yeah.
yeah, all those that framework is just like, no, you're a human being. You're
You
about
know
to
what?
be a
And
mom.
there was a time the one of the doctors, the ones who suck, basically was asking me what I did, right? And I was like, I'm a student, but I also work. And at that time I was working at reception, um, at one of the hospital rehab areas. And, there was like a judgment a lot of times when they hear what you do and they're like, okay, they're trying to decide for you whether you should have a baby or not. Like,
Mm.
that's not your
Ooh,
business. I am not here
wowza.
for you. Yes, I had a gyno, which I got rid of him quick. He was like, oh, you should get on birth control. You should get an IUD, because if you don't want to have any more kids, because you definitely going, like, not even listening to what method of birth control I already had, but he was trying to tell me what he wanted me to take because he was so sure I
Wow.
was going to get knocked up. Like, you don't know
With you and
me.
your husband?
But me and my husband, and also not even looking at my chart to know that, like, that was so insensitive, not even looking to see what I have been through, to know that I don't take none of this stuff lightly. I've been very much intentional. And for you to even come up in here with the foolishness and to tell me and throw birth control methods at me without listening to me, I stopped listening to him. Like, that was
Yeah.
it. That's why he is no longer there.
Yeah.
And so, so
I
things
know.
like that, you know, as I said, there's biases that people, everybody grows up
Yes.
differently, you're raised differently, you see life differently. And, but there is an expectation. And I don't know if this is just my, foreign mind, right? I'm coming from a different country and culture. Um, I expect professionals to be professional.
I don't think that's a Caribbean thing, but I think I
Apparently
also have
it's,
that same expectation. Like, don't I want to know that your staff is like not eating chips while they're checking me
yes.
in.
And
Like,
also not looking at me as a statistic and thinking that you know me already based on just the way I come in. And first of all, I'm always fresh and fly. I look good. So I don't even
I
know why
look
you.
blah.
Yes. So, but even if I came in pajamas, you still don't have a right. Like, I could be depressed. That could just be
Mm-hmm,
that could be my win for today that I even got out the house.
mm-hmm.
So it's very much important that
The
it's you.
biases, the
Yeah,
biases,
that's
and
and that you're not
yeah,
telling people who to be, or basically stating that you know who they are before they've even opened their mouth.
yeah. And I think I remember in studying social work, we did this activity. And I will never forget it because she had us to call out. She was pretending to be I was our professor, God rest her soul, because she was an amazing person. Um, but we had to do an exercise where she let us know, okay, we're going to be doing like an assessment on the client. We'll be doing an intake on the client. And but the way we were doing the intake is we were writing down all the biases that we had when we first saw the door. She's like, okay, well, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to bring in the client, right?
Mhm.
And she comes in and she sits down, and we had to like do the like break down all of our biases as it pertained to her. It
Wow.
was so challenging because I'm like, you're
Oh,
my
wow.
teacher,
Right.
you're my professor, okay?
Right.
But it really helped to see how much of our biases can inform the care that we offer. And
That.
we have to be intentional about, okay, I'm I can't I'm not I can't consider the race or what they're wearing or any of
Right.
those things. I really have to meet that person at face value so that I can be empathetic and I can give them. I'm not looking at whether they have a ring on their finger or not. I'm not
Right.
looking at
Right.
if their hair is clean. I'm not looking at
Right.
their shoes. Like I'm not even looking at the way that they talk. I'm
Right.
really just looking at them for who they are so that I can meet the needs that they have. And it was a really eye-opening
Wow.
experience for me as a person who was giving care at that time when I worked in that field,
Right.
um, to just really be aware that my assumptions of who someone is are not going to be helpful in giving them the quality of care that they deserve.
Wow, I love that. Love that.
Yeah,
And that's
it
in social
was.
work. So I'm telling you, I'm sure they teach
I'm
it. They
sure they do
gotta.
it, but
They gotta.
they need a
They
refresher course every
every
couple of years. It
year.
should be like
Nah, every year, every
every
6
year,
months.
every 6 months, every couple of years. Just
Listen,
remind it
I
because people
do
get
want to
burnt
shout out
out.
Memorial Hospital. I do need to shout out Memorial Hospital because that's
Oh
one thing
yeah,
when I worked there, even though I was just working at reception in a rehab, there was trainings happening every so often, and they offered it, and it was to ensure that you're empathetic with everybody that comes through the door, and they made sure everybody had the same type of training because they wanted the culture to remain the same. They said, make sure whenever you dealing with people, deal with them like how you would want your family member to be treated.
yeah.
If your family's member is coming in with an achy chest or whatever, treat them the way that you would want your family member to be treated. And
That's the
that,
golden rule right there. That's what
listen,
Jesus said. That's what
that's
Jesus
what
said.
you, and exactly, Memorial took it out of the page and they
Took out the
ran
book.
with it. Again, saying, okay, because really, and it really made and I could see the difference even before I was there, even a good 3 months, I could see how everyone behaved in that manner, and everyone truly cared, from the person that's greeting you at the door, from the doctors, like it was a beautiful thing to see. And I think what you said, it really does, if you assume things, it really does impact the care. And if you go in empathetic and you truly try to see the people, you know what I'm saying? Like, treat them as though, okay, yes, this is a person in need, and you're going to be empathetic and care. It makes the world of a difference.
Yeah.
It really, 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 really does.
It really does. And I think that there, again, are so many great people who are doing the work. Unfortunately, in the news, and in the news at large, we are seeing, the numbers. I mean, the negatives, but also the numbers, like statistically, of course, there are a lot of negative things. We'll be diving into that next season. We really want to not just take a negative Nancy approach, but really a holistic approach, and how and an empowering approach to how we can advocate for ourselves. But yeah, they're amazing. Like I said, with the doctor that she worked out of Memorial Hospital. She delivered out of Memorial.
See what I'm talking about?
And let me tell you, that delivery was smooth as pie. That man slipped right out with no problems. In fact, I ended up feeling like a freak show after I delivered him, because all these nurses, like a freak show. I'm not even gonna lie. Random nurses would come, and this is the only. Thankfully, I was pretty bounced back pretty easily after that birth, because I already had 3 other kids. There no downtime, but they would come to the room and be like, "Oh wow, is that the baby? We heard that you had this is your vaginal after 2 C-sections."
Look, it was amazing.
They were like, wow, wow. I'm glad I was able to give that to her as well. I mean, she did, help me through the process, but she also has that added to her resume. Like, it's successful. And I think I left her a review. Because if you do well, should you not be rewarded? You get a great review. Okay.
Listen, I sang his praises. I sent people to him after the fact. Okay.
There you go.
Because and I'm still talking about him almost 5 years later. Amazing.
Yeah. That great care will go a long way. But again, like we said, we're going to explore in the new season this topic even further, and really have professionals on, because of course we're not experts. We are speaking out of our own experiences. Definitely do your own research, contact your health care provider. We're not giving any medical advice, and we're not even on this, we're not here to shame doctors. We just want us to be informed as people who are able to give birth, not just the moms, but also the husbands, because sometimes, that the husbands, the partners, the significant others, they have to also be able to advocate. And so, we appreciate.
So husbands, read the books. Yeah.
Read the books.
Read the books. Because my husband did not read the book. He was like, well, I'm going to figure it out when they get here. I was like, no, bro, read the books.
And if you can't, and if you don't have the capacity, that's
turn
where
some videos. YouTube.
Bring on a doula. I think doulas should be a part of, especially if you have any type of healthcare package, it should be a part of it, so that because not everybody has the bandwidth. I know for myself, I'm queasy. I couldn't even look at my own childbirth photos because I was ready to vomit. Okay. But
right.
especially
no,
these, oh my
listen,
God,
the doulas,
but a
for
doula
sure.
for
Because
advocacy, for
I just
information, for
called, I only
encouragement.
called for information because my insurance wouldn't cover it, because I was definitely going down that path. And just a phone call, one singular phone call to a doula changed my life. Okay. Let's know
Right
the
there
care.
with Jesus now. She
Listen,
right up
and
there with
it
Jesus.
definitely encouraged me to keep searching for quality care.
Yes.
And it was the extra push I needed. And she didn't even rush me off the phone. I wasn't paying her for her time. That phone call, like, listen, doulas are not given enough respect. They are amazing. And I do think it should be a package care. If the doctors want to treat you like a number, make sure you have a doula on board so that I can go to the doula, so that you could go ahead and be your number person and let the doula talk to me and treat me like a person. Because come on, we need it.
And doulas, I don't think are a recent, I mean,
no, they're not.
Midwives.
No, yeah.
Doula,
they've been around a long time.
All those people, they've been around. And so I think with I'm not even gonna lie, the healthcare system,
listen,
has done a number on it.
We're gonna leave this for the next season because I'm already mad. Leave it. Yeah, I'm getting already riled up because Lord knows we got to do better.
All of
everything, all of the things,
all of the package. But we want to encourage you if you are if you're with child, if you're considering becoming a mom, the best thing that we can do is tell you to be informed. Talk to other moms about their honest experiences.
Yes.
And choose the best option that's best for you. Don't do it because anybody else is doing it. Know that everyone else's experience is going to be different from yours. Know also your body. I think earlier, Anita had talked about that on the first season 1 about knowing your body. Like, I think that's also important to have knowledge of self and, your physical body. So,
and that one is easier said than done too, because sometimes you don't even know until you know, which is
that's
really
true.
Because that's what happened for me. I didn't know I was carrying. Nobody ever told me that I carried low until I was actually carrying low. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So,
that's
true. But don't be afraid to ask the questions. Do some research. Make sure that your doctor's okay with you asking questions.
Yeah.
If
not, red flag.
That's number one red flag. Nobody should, it's about you, and they shouldn't be mad at you asking questions about you. Okay.
Yeah.
We love you, ladies. We want you guys to we don't want you to feel anxious or nervous, but we definitely want you to be informed, because you have to be your greatest advocate.
Yeah.
And that's just the number one thing we want to send here with this.
Yes. Episode. And I think the great thing is that in this one conversation, we both have had 2 different experiences. And so, we've had 2 different experiences, but we've got kids. Okay. And we're still here, and we're grateful to God for that. But again, if this shows you anything, let it show you that there's many different experiences to be had. So thanks.
And we wish you all good and great ones.
Yes. We wish you all the good and all the great and all the wonderful and all the pleasant things that come with childbirth. And namely, just ending it. We just wanted to end with you being able to hold your child in your arms. All right. So thank you guys for enjoying this bonus episode of the podcast. Thank you for listening in. You can catch us on Spotify and Amazon. Catch up with some older episodes if you haven't checked out our season 1, checked out season 2. Go ahead and do that. Spotify, Amazon. And feel free to leave a review.
Yes, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook to get more information and inspiration on motherhood and making things.
Yes.
You can listen when you're getting ready in the morning. That's what I do. I listen back because there's so many tidbits. I take notes and I listen back, and I still find new things, even though we were there in a conversation. Sometimes it's just when you listen back, you get something new. So
yes. And if you enjoyed the episode, share it with a friend. If you have a question or a comment, then send us an email at the ProCreatives Podcast @gmail.com. Yay.
This episode is powered by The Jordan's Create. The Jordan's Create is a production company built by creatives and ProCreatives to help you execute your vision. The Jordan Create provides creative consulting and production services ranging from film and event production, editing and writing support, media editing, and creative direction. If you have an idea and need support, we are here for you. Send us an email at thejordanscreate@gmail.com.
Bye.
Bye.